If you find yourself with a camera in your hand and want to learn how to use it, please subscribe to this channel, like the videos, comment below. Hey Photos family, in that challenge video I keep referring to, but that challenge video where I had the model leaning up against the wall and posing her and showing a little bit of an illustration on how you can use the same environment for different shots, but you also can find an environment very close by to the environmental sweep that you have. We are talking today about when you go to an environment like that and you have to switch or you change the environment characteristics somewhat, whether it's the lighting, if you change the background surface or the reflective surfaces nearby, you're going to need to change a little bit your camera settings. So you're going to want to get into that setting. You're going to want to take notice and observe and just be a little bit intuitive with some of these things. But the first thing you're going to want to change is the thing that you notice about the shadows. If you go up close to a surface and you notice that there's a shadow behind what you're part of your body's in contact with that surface, then you have more direct lighting. Direct lighting means that you're going to have greater contrast. Maybe then you can bump down your ISO a little bit, rather than being a high contrast ISO 100, 200, or something around that rating, then you can bump that up to ISO 400, 800, and not be in such constraint exposure and the editing term is a black point. Once you get the ISO set in and noticing how much contrast is in your shot, for instance, within the shadow here, there's fairly flat lighting. So when I put my hand up against here, the camera doesn't see a great detail of shadow. There's just a distinction between my hand and the tree because there's a little bit deeper shadow, but it's fairly deep in there. You're not going to get any kind of detail because my hand is up against the tree. The same way with the coarseness of this bark here of this tree, you're not going to see a whole lot of difference between me and the tree for a good reason. That is giving you an idea of what you need to set your ISO to be because of the contrast, how deep the shadows are. The next would be to set according to your depth of field, or how big of an area do you want to be in focus. If you have the lens attachment to your camera that you can, it's not a lens attachment, but your lens as it attaches to the body of your camera, if you have detachable lenses, then you're going to be able to set the aperture because the lens itself is going to have the diaphragm to be adjusted. Some point and shoot cameras are going to be a lot the same because they can digitally adjust, or the lens itself that is always attached to your camera might be able to adjust the diaphragm within it. That setting is generally noted in your screen that you can adjust as F/ and then a number.
Sorry, I couldn't.
I'm not talking to you. So the f-stop is going to be noted with an aperture number, F/ whatever number that your aperture is set to, or it may just be simply a number. Looks a lot like the ISO number, it looks a lot like your shutter speed, but it specifically is set by the diaphragm opening within the lens, and how that scientifically adjusts how deep your focus is incredibly detail oriented. I love that kind of stuff, but I won't bore you with the details. The important part is that tells you how in focus your background is going to be when your subject is in focus. If you want a nice soft background that doesn't show a lot of great detail, it's soft, it's a little bit like a glamour shot, then you're going to want a very low aperture, something like f4, or if your lens and aperture go even lower, f2 or 1.5, 1.4, 1.2 is the lowest I think most go right now if you have that kind of very expensive lens. But the next and last setting you're going to want to set after you get the ISO, the aperture set for a portrait shoot such as we did in that challenge video, is you're going to want to make sure that you have your shutter speed set so that any slight movement of your subject or other details around, perhaps your own camera shake as you're trying to push the shutter button, is not going to blur and make the photo come out less than desirable, let's say that. So you're gonna want to take notice of the focal distance, the focal length of your lens. If you're shooting at about 50 millimeters, you're gonna want to set your shutter speed to 1/100th of a second. If you are shooting at say 35 millimeters for lens, you're gonna want something 65 or higher for shutter speed, and that's going to help you avoid the camera shake and the motion that you don't want in that photograph. Thank you so much for watching. We've enjoyed sharing these details with you. If you're not yet a part of our Photos family as a subscriber, we would love to have you. Just click that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on. Leave us a comment down below as to what you've found through this video that's been helpful, and we will be continuing to build and improve the video channel as we are working toward improving our photography 1% at a time. Thank you so much. God bless.